I never prepare for something like this, like, set anything. I kind of like to shoot from the hip a bit. The one thing I probably want to make sure I say, and this is maybe my age coming out a little bit, because as I was driving over here, some thoughts went through my head. But who knows why? And again, as you get older, and he mentioned my wife and my kids, those things become more and more precious. And I'm talking about relationships. Some of you are married, aren't married, do have families, children, don't. Maybe you won't. Who knows? But you will have relationships. And through every pursuit you have in life, whether it be a career, running a company, whatever it's going to be, there isn't anything that's worth ruining or losing those relationships. Nothing. And you see it all the time. I see it all the time. And when you are, and you all are going to go into the work field at some point in some way, maybe you already are, maybe you already have your own business going, there is no real way to truly balance your life. I mean, people talk about a balanced life. How do you have a balanced life? There's no such thing. I mean, I don't have a balanced life. I'd like to say that I do. I don't. There isn't balance, but you can force yourself to be unbalanced in the right way, even if it's for limited times, if that makes sense to anyone. So, as an example, and again, this isn't maybe what you guys came here to, but this is important to me. When I get home from work, which, last night was 7:30, I had a church assignment at 8 o'clock, so I had literally like 25 minutes to be with my family. It's not a lot of time, and then I was there till like 10. Unfortunately, my 3 youngest kids were still up, so I got to, rebalance again, but for that 25 minutes, I was on the ground, funny enough, playing Legos with my little boy, Dean. He has this little monster truck. He had built these obstacles over, and then my little daughter, Ava, was sick, and so and it was minutes. This was not hours. This was minutes of one-on-one time with her, seeing how she felt. She had a little fever, got her a little medicine, a little 7-Up. These things are, I promise you, they as you get into the business world, your career, different industries, some of you may go work on Wall Street or who knows what. It is so easy to allow yourself to put off things that are incredibly important for long periods of time. And I'll admit that when my oldest daughter was young, and I regret this, by the way, I don't remember a lot of her younger years. I worked, and I still work a ton, but I wasn't good at, when I was home, to be present, completely 100% present, and leave the things of work and stress behind and focus on it was just my wife and my daughter at that time. It wasn't that hard, but I just wasn't that good at it then. I've gotten way better at it. So again, I'm going to leave that behind, but I just want to make sure you know of me. I love business. I love industry. I love competing in business, growing companies from nothing. There's a lot of things that I love about, what I do. But it's just for me, it's the most important thing that I've learned through life is keeping those relationships healthy. You've just got to figure out a way to do it, even with an unbalanced time schedule, and that's through focus. So anyway, so a little bit of background. Has anyone ever heard me speak? Because sometimes guys on the front, yeah. So I think it's kind of boring, but it's a little bit important to hear a slight bit of my background. So I went to BYU, and I hate BYU, by the way. No, I'm kidding. I know this is being recorded. I like BYU. But UVU, to be totally honest, has transformed as an organization in a way that is so incredibly impressive. I've been in this valley for 20 plus years, 25 years, 26 years. And what has happened here through the leadership and the people and the personnel and the vision is super impressive. It's just like a business, but delivering education for everyone and opportunity for everyone. But when I was at BYU, I was blessed with parents that did not help me out with school. They could have. My dad was an orthodontist, and he chose to. I served an LDS mission in the Dominican Republic. I got home, and like 3 days later, my dad's like, "Hey, do you have a ride to school?" And I'm like, "No, I mean, what are we gonna get? I mean, what kind of ride should we get? I don't need anything too expensive because I'm a humble guy from the mission." He's like, "No. I mean, like, do you have a ride down to Provo?" I grew up in Idaho Falls. I'm like, "What?" So anyway, my dad gave me a ride, dropped me off. I had to bum rent off of my missionary companion that had been married for 1 month, and it was a 1-bedroom basement apartment. Went and lived with them. I had no money. Got a job sheetrocking, and I won't get into too much detail on that, but to get myself through school, I sheetrocked, and I had a house cleaning business. So again, very fortunate that my parents had taught me to work when I was younger. I had lots of jobs through school. Didn't always love it. Some of the chores my dad forced me to do when I was younger, I did not understand. My dad would have me restack the wood pile twice. I'm like, it's straight. No, it's not. It's not straight. No. It's seriously. This is straight. Like this is. No, it's not. Restack it. And of course, I would be cursing under my breath, but I would do it. So I do appreciate my parents because they did teach me how to work. And if I wanted something, I had 10 brothers and sisters. My parents, who led us to believe we had no money, would say, if you want it, then go get it. This popped in my head. Second grade, a kid had a hacky sack. Does anyone know? You guys know what a hacky sack is? And I'm staring at this hacky sack. He's like bouncing on his knee, kicking it, and I'm like, I want one of those. That's awesome. And all these kids made him really popular, with at least like 6 kids. I'm like, I want to be popular. I need one of those hacky sacks. So I went home, and my mom's like, hey, those are like $15. We can't afford it. So go do some chores. I went to my dad's office as an orthodontic practice, and I think he paid me like 50 cents an hour, which is, probably goes against child labor laws, but he still did it, and it's, past the number of years I can go after him, so I won't do that. But I went and earned the money for a hacky sack. Super proud. I still remember that. It was awesome. So anyway, go to school, and literally, if I wanted to eat or pay rent or tuition or books, I had to go late. Has anyone ever sheetrocked, like as a job, not like put up a little bit of sheetrock? You guys have done it? I mean, I guarantee I was faster than you. But I actually dominated at sheetrocking. But it's a hard job. It's a really hard job, and you have to be fast and you have to be precise. It's physical. I loved everything about it, actually, which is horrible. I did realize, though, it wasn't going to be something I could do long term for a career to get me where I wanted to go, but it did teach me a ton. Cleaned homes in Provo. In fact, a lot of people I'm friends with in Utah County are friends because I cleaned their homes. I cleaned their toilets. Has anyone ever done janitorial work to get yourself through school? So is everyone willing to, if they had to, go clean toilets tomorrow? It's like you're getting, I know most of you guys are like silver spoon, people, but if you were cut off, would you clean toilets to get yourself through school? Some probably yes, some probably would say, no, I'd figure something else out. I was willing to do that, and that's what I did to go get what I wanted to get, which was an education at that point. So, that kind of leads to, that was a couple of years after my mission, and in that process, I fell off a scaffolding. This was a positive thing. I fell off a scaffolding training a guy, tore my rotator cuff in my right shoulder. And so I couldn't hang sheetrock. I go to Brent Bartholomew, the guy who I lived with, and I said, hey man, I can't do this anymore, my shoulder. I can't even get my right arm above my shoulder. So it was either, just clean homes full time and go to school, or I had some friends who went and worked for a pest control company in Sacramento. This is, you guys all know they're these summer sales companies now. It's what I do, or some of what I do. Back then, there weren't any, zero. It didn't exist. There was a small company in Sacramento that hired like 6 students. That was it. No one in Utah County was hiring anyone for anything like that. But my buddies made $10,000 or $12,000 in the summer of '91, and back then that was a ton of money, a ton. And in my mind, I'm like, well, these guys, both of them were, from rich families. They didn't really have to have the job. They got help with school. I didn't. I'm like, I will go do what they did, but I'm just going to do a lot better and earn a lot more. So they got me an interview. I drove to Sacramento, interviewed with this guy who owned the company. And of course, I drove out there. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm driving out. I'm hired. I'm already hired. I already know how to knock doors. No one knows how to work harder than I do. I need the money. I'm very competitive, incredibly competitive, too competitive. So, of course, I'm going to get hired. I go out there, meet with the guy for about an hour, and he's like, I'm not going to hire you. And, of course, I'm like, well, what? What'd you just say? He's like, I don't think you'd be very good at this job. I'm like, well, what part of the job am I not going to be good at? I knock doors to get all my clients clean homes. I cleaned toilets to get myself through school. I knocked doors for 2 years, and I was very, very good at it. Why do you think I couldn't do this job? Anyway, he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, it's no. I drove from Sacramento back to Provo, and my stupid alternator went out, which really made me mad, by the way. But I come back, and I call this guy like, there's no email back then. Who was even born? You were born back then, but who wasn't born in 1992? Or this is fall of 91. Who wasn't born? Some of you weren't. Don't be embarrassed that you're so young. No email, no anything. But I call this guy no less than 10 times. And he's like, do not call me back. I am not hiring you. So finally, I'm like, well, for no other reason than I was mad, I'm like, I'm going to go compete with him. I'm going to compete with him, and I'm going to prove to him that he made a mistake. Is that a good business plan? That's not a great business plan. Interestingly, though, in my current business, and we actually have in our, nothing wrong with this, but we don't have 800,000 subscribers. We have north of 1 million, probably be 3 million by the end of this year, not including our solar business. 8,800 employees. So we grew at 28% last year, and we're a pretty good-sized business. And I think we're going to grow in that area again this year. So we have very, very healthy growth in a very amazing business, but or industry that's kind of forming in the smart home world. But I have the same attitude I had then. Now this is again a quick fast forward, but we had a meeting with a guy. I'm not going to say who he is. He's actually a multi-billionaire out of the East Coast that was interested momentarily in doing an equity investment in my company. This is like 6 months ago, and we didn't ask him to do it. He approached, and so when we listen, we always listen to that type of thing. So he approaches and says, "Hey, I think this smart home industry is going to be huge. You guys are in it. I think I want to invest in your company. Are you open to it? I have a financial partner, Blackstone." And they said, maybe. It depends on valuation and how much he wants to invest, maybe. And there were a couple of other groups involved. Details don't matter. But we're sitting in our conference room, and he was telling me, this is 6 months ago. Hopefully he watches this. He'll know who he is. You're not going to be able to compete. He's looking at me, and my entire team. You guys can't compete with Apple. You can't compete with Google. You can't compete with Amazon, AT&T, Comcast, Verizon, so on and so forth. He told us that. He's like, you guys can play a role, and maybe you guys can do a little work for them, and maybe, if you're lucky. He literally said that to us. And we politely said, hey, we actually disagree. We are leading this industry. We have more experience than all of them combined in the smart home world, consumer interactions, how much technology is installed in a home. We actually build, design, all of our own technology on our back end, controlling that technology. These other companies don't, this, that, and the other. And he wasn't satisfied, and he left and didn't invest. But it happens, and maybe it's me, I don't know. But it happens to me all the time, and I actually love it. I love the fact that he said that, because he is one of the many people, and you'll have them in your path, that will say, you can't do it. You're not good enough. You don't have the talent. Hey, and no offense here, but man, you just got a degree at UVU? What's UVU? I mean, you didn't go to, so-and-so school or this school or that. You weren't smart enough? You laugh, but that's the truth. Because some people think that those things matter. That isn't what matters. It matters what you're willing to do and how far you're willing to go, and what you have inside of you. And by the way, you might not be smart enough to go to Stanford, or at least have the grades to get into Stanford or qualify. That doesn't mean you can't compete in the real world in business or jobs or career or running a company with someone who did go to Stanford. You absolutely can, and you can beat them, and you can win. But there's a lot of things that go into making that happen. So, that was Scott. And so I literally started the business for that reason. Now, here's the thing. I've learned through the process of running a company. There's some really critical things to do, and maybe I got a little bit lucky in some decisions I didn't really understand that I made in choosing to change out of industries. I was in the pest control industry. It's a good industry. It's very, very small. Not a lot of upside potential to create a large-scale worldwide business. Moved into security, residential security, competing with companies like ADT. We still deliver and sell that service. But we made a very conscious effort, I don't know, I guess it was over 10 years ago, to create the company, or change the company into a technology-based firm offering services into the home and small business, and really building out a platform of services that are integrated for people. So we really have been fortunate in making decisions that put us into a position to grow and scale our company in industries that have massive upside potential. A lot of times I talk to people that want to start a business or go into an industry, and they don't think much about, what if I'm successful? What if I do a good job in this particular space? And the end result and the potential upside is not anywhere near where they hoped it to be, but they didn't think past, hey, I think I can do this and make a living or make a buck. Which was the intention. They just wanted to make some money, so they started a business, which is never, ever the best reason to start a business, is just to make money. We've been fortunate in moving ourselves in a direction in areas that create maximum potential opportunity for our employees, which is incredibly important. And so if you do ever start a business, or intend to start a business, to me, it has been critical that we provide the best opportunity for the employees in all aspects of the business. There's people in finance and operations and legal, marketing, sales. All parts of the business have maximum opportunity to utilize their skill set and go get what they want to get out of life. Now, can you do that 100% for 100% of the people? No. But it is your responsibility as a leader, if you're the owner or a leader inside of a company, to make sure that you are laying that path for the people that are choosing to follow you. I think that's a leader's responsibility. And we feel like we've done that. Now, again, these are things I've learned through the years. Didn't start the business with a business plan or a lot of these things in mind, other than the fact that my dad, who was a man of very few words, when I dropped out of school and said, I'm starting this business. And my dad drove all the way from Idaho Falls, sat down with me on the lawn south of BYU and said, hey, if you're gonna do this, You need to run a company that takes care of its employees and takes care of its customers and delivers the best service possible. And at the end, if you do that, you'll have success. That's all he said. But that's a lot said in very few words. And so it's something I've tried to follow. And I actually think about that specifically all the time. It really kind of emulates everything that I have attempted to do as a leader inside of this company. And I believe the people I've surrounded myself with also feel the same way. Maximize opportunity and upside for employee base and deliver best services for the consumers that are willing to allow us to serve them. And that's actually, in a nutshell, that's what we try to do. So anyway, so started the business, dropped out of school, and went out and started to compete. And I figured out in very, very short order, I loved being in business. I actually loved the stress, the long hours, the challenge, the everything, the employee interaction, the creativity around building and scaling a business, solving problems. I intended to be a dentist and an orthodontist like my dad. Didn't work out. But I found something I was passionate about. I wasn't great at it, but I was great at effort. And the other thing that I think that I've done a decent job at, and the people I work with do a really good job at, is best inputs possible. So as we're making decisions, and we make a lot of decisions, we've got a big organization. We have multiple verticals. I won't even get into the complexity of Vivint. It takes a long time to describe all of the things we do, and it kind of comes together. I won't even describe it, but there are multiple business units inside of our company. They tie together differently, intersect to the consumer and the business world differently. So we're making lots of decisions. The one thing we try to do is put in the best inputs possible, and the best outcome will come out of that possible. You cannot control the outcome of anything. You just can't. You can control the inputs. You can control your effort. You can control one thing that's really important is living up to what you say you're going to do to employees, to customers, to partners, to people that you do business with. You can control certain things. You can't control the outcome. But I can tell you this. There are a lot of things that have happened to me in business this is a lot of years, 24 or 5 years in business. Lots of great things and some really difficult things. And what's remained constant is good inputs have delivered great results at some point in time. And not typically when I wanted or when I expected them. There are times when markets control and determine the growth of a business or an industry. We've gone through multiple downturns. We're probably going to have another one in the next couple of years. We're due for one. That's fine. We've tried to put great inputs into the business, decisions to make sure that we can weather any sort of storm that comes through or will come through. They will come through. But making sure that we have good inputs on the business, keeping the employee base very aware of where we're going as a company. Messaging is critical. If you want to go do something or get something, if you want to go get that hacky sack, and there's 8,800 employees involved, and then, by the way, that's just our Vivint, the solar business has like 5,500. We have a lot of employees. If you want to go get your hacky sack, if there's a hacky sack to be attained, people need to know that you're trying to go get a hacky sack. And you've got to get all 8,800 or however many people involved focused on that one thing, and then build a plan. There's got to be a plan in place. And speaking of that, there are very few people who have a plan in life. They just don't. I had loose plans, when I was early on in business. I had general concepts of where I wanted to end up or be or accomplishments that I wanted to have. But what I've been forced to do over time because of the size and scale of our company and how rapidly we're growing and changing, We have very, very, very defined plans. I mean, it's down to the week, definitely month, absolutely quarter, and year over year. And of course, they change and tweak as things go, and you have to be flexible with those. But we have a very defined plan. And I would say, I talk to a lot of people. My assistant Callie's here, and she knows she has to, schedule. There's a lot of people that want to come talk to me that don't even work with me, but they want to go do something. I'm like, well, what do you want to do, and why, and to what end, and what are you going to do with that if you attain that? And there's a lot of I don't know, and I haven't thought about that, and who knows why. But when even if it's, some of you may not build a business. If you're going to go into an industry or develop a career, you should have a plan. You should have a plan and not go out and just see whatever happens, because you're just going to get whipsawed for 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. You're going to get whipsawed. You need to have a plan of execution, career goals, career objectives. And can they change? Yes, of course they can. But with no plan, you're not going to have a good outcome, in my opinion, and especially if you run a company. If you don't have a plan and you have employees, well, they don't have a plan either. And if you have employees with no plan, you're going to have a lot of people doing a lot of nothing, and maybe by chance or circumstance, you're going to have some success, but by no means you're going to have the success you could potentially have if you have an objective and a path to accomplishing that. How much time do I have? Because I do want to let people. 20 more minutes. So I think I want to, and maybe this will lead to some other things. I probably want to allow you guys to ask questions at this point. I don't know how many minutes you usually do that, but I've got other things on my mind. But I'd probably rather let you guys ask. And I'm a very, very open book, so you can ask me pretty much anything. There's a few things I won't tell you. But actually, that's probably not true. I'll tell you just about anything. But, yeah.
You brought up that you, about 10 years ago or so, you made a conscious decision to build a platform of integrated services and go forward from there. Can you go a little bit more into depth about that and maybe what that was like?
So it's, we made a conscious decision to build a company that was really a technology platform to deliver services to consumers and small businesses. So I was in the security business, and I'm a very observative person. Very common sense. On the intelligence scale, I'm not going to say I'm a 1 to 10. I'm a 5, but I'm probably like 6.2. But I have good common sense, and I think a lot. And actually, I read a lot about my industry and things I'm thinking about. I'm always grinding for information. But we were in the security business and doing really well, by the way. Company was growing. The company was making a lot of money. I wasn't. I was putting every dollar back into the business, which I didn't even get into with that. But you'll either do that or not. But redeployed capital every year. So my wife, I was married, and I'm like, every year I was like, honey, we're going to buy a couch next year. I promise. This is like 10 years into our marriage, 12. And then the next year, we can't buy a couch this year because we got to put all the money back into the company next year. And she's like, just don't tell me we're going to buy a couch anymore. And that's no joke. But so I'm in this industry, and I'm like, this is interesting. We were selling GE, and hopefully they're watching, GE and Honeywell, big companies, their products. They built the security panels and peripherals, all the hardware. And it was really ugly. And it was huge, big, huge things we'd install on people's walls. And they hadn't changed in like 15 years. It was like, Volkswagen did the VW Bug, and they produced that thing for, not the new one, some of you guys probably don't realize there was one back in the 60s and 70s. They produced it forever and ever and ever because they could, and it was a huge profit. That's what they were doing. And, we'd meet with the heads of their security industries and say, hey, this is embarrassing. These products are embarrassing to sell and install. Could you guys build something smaller? That was the first, innovation. Just maybe a little bit smaller. And could we have a touch screen or something? all these things we'd ask for, and they'd say, well, that's not possible. No, you can't do that. You can't make it smaller. And it finally came to a head when we wanted we internally were saying, well, it'd be cool if this hub we're installing could connect to lights eventually, and thermostats and garage doors and things that weren't even happening yet. And we told them that, and they're like, well, that's a dumb idea. No one's going to want connected services. That's so stupid. And we're like, well, how about at least, when the alarm goes off, if we could communicate from our central station, our monitoring, to the customer over a speaker, like on the cellular network, instead of us having to call them on the phone. That's how monitoring works most of the time, not us. Your alarm goes off, they call you on your phone, a home phone, by the way, and you have to answer, and they say, hey, are you being robbed? It's too late. So we said, can we do this over the cellular network? And they're like, no, it's impossible. And my partner, Alex Dunn, the president of the company, he pulls out his BlackBerry. That's what he had back then. And he's like, well, this little hub thing has two-way voice with a speaker, and it works pretty good. And you can't do this on this big panel that's this big? No, technically impossible. So they left. This is the president of Honeywell. They left our offices with their engineering team, and that very moment, we went and found, I'm not an engineer, but we knew what we wanted ultimately, and we went and hired the engineers, and we went and built, and I even had investment from Goldman Sachs at that point, and they said, you guys are crazy. You guys aren't engineers. You don't have to design, build, whatever. We said, that's right, we're going to go hire that talent and that ability. So we saw a vision, and let me tell you something that's really funny. Was Monday night. So Monday night, just a series of events that have happened to our company. I won't describe who we're meeting with and what we're doing, but the dreams that we had back 10 years ago about, hey, and some of them have been announced. We're partnered with Google Nest and Amazon in a very big way, and a couple of other firms are going to be coming through because of our technical capabilities, and also our sales platform, our installation capability, our service capability North American wide. We can service customers in 97% of zip codes in North America, and we can do it immediately. So anyway, Monday night, Alex and I were sitting and we're like, this is crazy. Like the things we were dreaming about, like the big things we were dreaming about are actually happening. And we're like, this is scary. Holy cow. Sometimes when you end up getting to the point where you hope to be, that's when it's scary, because then you could fail. And fear of failure is never fun. So, but we're excited about it. But we have some amazing things happening inside the company. But it's been years and years and years and years of inputs and decisions and retooling, retweaking the business. Even the employee base, we've had to go through a series, and always do, every company does, series of different people and personnel in positions that had the capability to take the company to the next level. It's nonstop. There is no, in running a company, especially when it grows, there is no time to relax. Now, if you get the chance to run a university, totally different story. It's, go in the office, president pulls his shoes off, loosens the tie, kicks the feet up on the desk, and just goes on cruise control for months at a time. But that, we'll just keep that between us. Just kidding. He's full speed at 10, 100% of the time. It's amazing. Now, did we get to this point? Did we believe we were going to even get to this point? I don't know. All of the things happening with our company, and all of the industries or services that we're now delivering that we had talked about, we hoped, and we laid the plans, and we put the best inputs in possible, hired the best people possible to deliver, and the results are coming through now. We now have bigger plans, grander plans, way bigger objectives than we had 10 years ago, way bigger. Even bigger than we had 2 years ago. which maybe is another point. And this is actually a very, well, this is kind of a, here's an example. So of like raising your vision on what is possible for you, the people you surround yourself, the organization you're inside of, even if you don't own the company, by the way, and you're just part of the program and you're one of the leaders or business units of a company. And I'm actually going to Boston today because of this, what I'm about to tell you. I'm leaving right when we finish. The head of the PTA of our grade school, I have 3 kids in grade school. I have 2 that are junior high school. Anyway, she comes to me and she said, well, we're trying to raise some money. As you know, the grade school only has 1 computer lab, and it's 28 computers. There's 620 students in the school, by the way. This is 2016, and these are like old, junky computers in the computer lab. So each student gets like not all the way down to kindergarten, but whatever age range, 20 minutes of computer lab time a week. And again, this is 2016, and we're competing with the world. So she said, well, we want to raise $10,000 over the next 3 years to have another computer lab. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? Now, my kids are in public school. They have all, my oldest have gone through, my youngest will. There are a lot of things that are frustrating about the public education system. Some things I really, really like a lot. We've actually lived within the system and then provided extra resources to my children outside of what they learn in school. And this is nothing against the educators. They have lack of funding and budget. They do an amazing amount of work in educating with classrooms in Utah that are way overpopulated and way underfunded. So my hat's off to people that work inside of the Utah education system. It's amazing. And that spills over even to UVU, who does way more with less than everybody else. It's incredible. So anyway, she said, hey, 10,000. I said, well, that's a joke. Are you being serious? She's like, well, I said it not that mean, kind of that mean. But Mike, I don't support that. I've been frustrated over the computer situation and the funding situation with the school, and we've done things ourselves for individual classrooms, but that's like, it doesn't solve a problem. It's like little Band-Aids. So I said, look, and this popped in my head. I said, what would it cost to put a computer in every student's lap? She's like, oh, well, we can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, well, let's add it up. And so it was $300,000. Schools get a break on computers from Apple and others and whatever. $300,000. I said, here's what we'll do. You have 30 days, by the way. You have 30 days. You go raise $150,000. I'll match $150,000. Or my wife will. She has all the money. But that's actually the truth. My first wife, not my second wife. Is that what that's called? And she said, well, that's not possible. And I said, no, actually, I think it is. Go to work. So amazingly, talk about an incredible effort. She actually raised $180,000. So we had to match a little bit more, which is great because we're going to get more with that. By the way, the 10,000 was a great goal, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But in your life, you're going to go get somewhere close to what you decide to go get. You're going to accomplish. You're never going to accomplish a lot more than you dream about. Now, and I'm not talking, by the way, about financial success, because every single career and industry and thing that every single thing that people do does not necessarily result in massive financial outcome, which, by the way, does not matter. And if you ever hear me speak, I'll tell you, because I've had it. It doesn't matter. As long as you can pay your bills, have enough money to take care of basic needs, and maybe a little bit more, a little bit more than that. That's kind of maximum joy and happiness from a financial perspective. Everything else is, well, there can be great joy in it if you're willing to share and be generous with that gift. But do not chase a business or an industry or a career path because it makes a lot of money. Because money is just money. There's zero joy or happiness because of money. But there are a lot of good things you can do with it if you do have that opportunity. So when I talk about, huge plans, I'm not talking about huge financial outcomes. If that happens to be part of the equation, great. But I'm talking about, and again, this could be whatever you're going to do in your career or whatever industry you're going to attack. You can have maximum impact if you think big, if you plan big, if you dream big, and then lay a plan that's realistic. Surround yourself with the right people. Become someone that can be part of the right organization or build the right organization to go accomplish that. And by the way, I didn't raise that money. I didn't do it. I didn't have the time. I was in the process of selling a business. She did it. She did it with a few other ladies in our neighborhood, and they went and got it done. Because I said, you have 30 days, and if you raise $149,000, that's awesome, but I'm not matching $1. Now, that was a lie, but my wife's like, that's really mean. I'm like, I'll still match whatever they raise, but don't tell her that. Hopefully she doesn't watch that, but I should admit that to her at some point. But she worked her guts off and just raised the vision of people around her. And when she first told people in our area, they're like, well, that's impossible. And they just kind of broke it down. They said, well, here's some families that could donate more. Here's some, and we had people donate like $5. That's all they could afford. So they just broke it down, built the plan, and they went and got it done. It was amazing. So that was kind of a long answer to that, but super important. What else? No dumb questions, by the way, either. We only have a few. Dumb questions, you got to do 20 push-ups.
How did you go about choosing the individuals to surround yourself in the beginning that made you successful?
That's a great question, because when I first started, I didn't choose, I begged. I'm not joking. I literally begged because I had never run a business. I had to convince people to come with me. And guess what? What I do today. I still convince people to come with me in some way or fashion. It's called recruiting. We happen to have a very competitive market in Utah. And we're not just in Utah, but a competitive business market. And so I'm always trying to find people that are way more qualified than the job or the task at hand requires. I didn't always do that. I've become very good at that. I would say if you met the people that are on my executive staff and even kind of expanded past that, every single one, I'm not saying this to, make fun of myself, every single one of them are way more intelligent than I am. I'm not embarrassed to say that. They're way more qualified at what they do and their particular, thing that they're controlling inside of Vivint than I am. I could not do the job as well as, but that's important. Now, some people are afraid to surround themselves with talent. They don't want to look dumb. I really don't care. I want to reach an objective. And President Holland knows some of the people that work with me, and they are some of the best and brightest minds in business, in my opinion. They are incredible. And when we're sitting down with the likes of Google and the engineering teams there, or Amazon, or whoever, it's not just toe to toe. They are phenomenal because they know their business. They know where we're going, why we're doing it, how we're competing, how we stack up in industries. They're very smart people. So it's something that it's tough too. Let me tell you this. There have been many times, and it happens all the time. It happens nonstop. When you're building an organization and someone could be the VP of this or that, who cares what it is. And they were great. And they actually were that person when you hired them. They were more qualified than the job required. But there's a point in time when the organization outpaces their ability or their drive or their desire. And then it's time to make a move. And part of, being a leader in an organization or, running a company, you've got to make tough decisions. And tough decisions in particular, like, letting someone go, which doesn't mean move them to another position in the company. That rarely works. That only happens in, education. And that doesn't work either. You just have to do, you don't have a choice. But it's hard, man. Those are hard conversations, and I have to do them all the time. But you have to be willing to do that. And interestingly enough, most of the time when you do have that hard conversation with someone, they already knew it. Now, they might fight against it a bit, but if you've had a good relationship with people, which you should as a leader, you can have honest conversations with people, and they're hard, they're uncomfortable, but I just ran into someone at the gas station that I had that conversation with 5 years ago, and she actually said, hey, this is a great move for me. I didn't want to keep up pace with the growth of the company and my personal life, this and that and the other. And so it ended up being a great blessing to her. And she's done phenomenal in her career anyway. So it's a constant thing that has to be reviewed and analyzed. And by the way, I think about that with myself. I'm the CEO of a company with, we'll probably have 10,000 employees by the end of this year. We're a technology firm. I'm not an engineer. So I even think about myself the same way. Like, am I the person to lead and drive and push this company to the next level that will accomplish what I talked about, maximizing opportunity for employees and delivering best-in-class services to our consumers? And I can't tell you that 100% of the time I say yes. Sometimes I'm like, me? Really? What? But I do my best. I work really hard. There may come a point in time, I'm a realist, when I am not that person, the right person for the organization at some point in time. It's probably already happened, and no one's told me yet. Like, just let him go into his office, and, we'll just have our meetings, and it's probably already happened. That's the funny part. And funny enough, I don't get a paycheck, so I think it has happened. Crap, I just, it was an aha moment. Crap. So I would be a good partner if anyone's looking for, Have a good idea. It's crap. So what else? Anything?
So what qualities do you have that qualify you to basically be in charge of these other people who you say and admit are so much more brilliant than you, so much more talented than you?
So, and this is going to sound weird, and I'm just going to tell you what I think. I'm dumb enough, this is kind of going to sound weird, I'm dumb enough to dare go do things. And, what's that all about? Sometimes it just so happens that people are so incredibly smart that they overanalyze every single thing, and they end up with the decision before they've even attempted anything. It won't work. It's too hard. The technology doesn't exist yet. No. Me, I'm kind of simple. I'm kind of simplistic. This is how things should look in our world, in our business, in a year, 2, 3, 5 years. I don't know when. So obviously, we should go build this part of our business. Cloud storage. I mean, why compete with AWS? That's crazy. But we're going to. Vivint is going to. And we are building all of the pieces, and we ended up buying a technology. I don't know in the rankings, but we're probably in the top 20 cloud storage, size of cloud storage capability in the country. I think by the end of this year, we'll be top 10. No, who knows that? You don't know that. Hardly anyone knows that. The capabilities coming through that are going to be astounding for the consumers, the potential business consumers, delivery of content. There's a whole series of things that we're going to be doing. And for me, I'm like, partly because I'm not an engineer, I don't know how hard that is, and this is peer-to-peer cloud sharing. It's a difficult challenge, but we're actually doing it and delivering it. And as interestingly, meeting with some of the companies we've partnered with and have started to explain what we were going to do, but we are now doing it. They're like, oh, that's not going to work. That's too hard. You can't do that. You can't. How do you do this? How do you do that? We're doing it. I'm willing to, if it makes sense to me, I'm willing to invest in the people and spend the time to go build out capabilities inside of the business. And I'll go find those people that have the the background, the intelligence, the ability to go make that happen. Now, some of them take a long time to come through. But again, great inputs, eventual outcome should be pretty dang good. Maybe not in the time frame you hoped or expected. So, and then the other is, I actually spend quite a bit of time thinking about what we are as an organization, what we're really good at, what we're not good at, what pieces or parts of the home or a family experience, because that's kind of what we do, could be cool or make sense or be beneficial to people's lives. So again, maybe just more of a generalist view on what should happen, not a technical view on what can't happen because it doesn't exist yet. I don't know if that answered your question, but again, I'm just dumb enough to go try anything, honestly.
I'm going to pull executive rank here.
Sure.
And wrap this meeting up. Todd, come on over here. You've been richly fed today. There's just been a ton of business wisdom that you've been shared with. But I, in wrapping up, want to thank this guy and just point out a couple of things that I hope you'll also take from this moment. So actually, probably the busiest, most dynamic person in this room is Callie, not anyone on the stage. And Todd alluded to it earlier. Every single day, there are tens, hundreds, maybe some days even more, of people who want to get on this guy's calendar. It happens internally, people who want his insight, his wisdom, voice of direction. People from the outside who want his money. I don't know anybody like that personally. But there are all sorts of people who just minute by minute want to get on his calendar and who would be significantly helped, including within his own company. So right now, there are emails that are not getting responded to, phone calls that aren't getting returned. And why is he here? He's here because he cares about you, and he cares about this valley. And he's a guy who wants to make a difference. And you heard a little bit about that. You know, he talked about this little elementary school thing that his family did, but they do a lot more than that. So I hope, in addition to seeing the kind of business genius, and I don't use that phrase lightly, that this is a builder. This is a difference maker. And that's my hope for any business graduate of Utah Valley University. You got to go out there. You got to work your head off. You got to make your mark and do your very best. But it's, at the end of the day, it's not just about you. There's so much good that you can do, and I hope that's the other big, big lesson that you'll take from Todd Pedersen today. So please join me in thanking him for what he did for you here, for what he, and what he's done for this university. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.